Welcome, James. Welcome to Quick Take. How are you?
I'm super great, Susie. How are you?
I am fantastic. I just flew in from being out of town, so I'm a little, it's
Loopy?
gonna be a funny, yeah, it's gonna be
Yeah,
a funny
yeah.
show, I can tell.
I'm super
Episode.
excited.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, um, it's, I know we kind of, you have an idea of what we're going to talk about today, but I had a coaching client who has been recently promoted.
Oh, yeah.
And he is working with me now because he really needs to show up differently because he is seen in the role that he's in. And so he's
Oh,
asking me, what do
sure.
I do? And when I say seen the same way, I think about some of the comments he gets from different leaders.
Mm,
He's always thought of it in this very specific situation that he was a part of. And so the CEO, every time he sees him, and I think it's just out of being familiar and not
yeah,
knowing what else
yeah.
to say, always brings up this particular thing. And he also has noticed that even in his current peer group before he was promoted, that he's not ever tapped on the shoulder for like that special project or presenting
Mm,
for the leadership summit, those kind of things. And so he was like, I want to be seen. I
right,
need to
right.
do something differently because whatever I'm doing isn't working.
No, that's a really interesting situation. I think that happens to a lot of folks, especially with you don't rub elbows with leadership on a regular basis. I know people whose offices are just down the hall from other execs. And then there's people, like in my case, where, my entire senior leadership team is in New York and London. So, you have to address that in a formal way. I think if you're going to make a
Mhm.
difference.
Yeah. Yeah. And be real intentional about
Absolutely,
how
absolutely.
you move into it. And I think also sometimes people, I know this happens with me. The day I show up with my promotion, I just feel a little bit like I have imposter syndrome
Oh, sure,
around it because
sure.
I'm like, I feel like everybody's looking at me. It's like when you first get your license. I remember when I was first 16 and you're driving down the street and you feel like everybody in every car is looking at you because this is the first time you've been
Well,
solo.
you were probably driving on the sidewalk, so that could be true.
It
With
was
you.
literally true.
Right, maybe not a great story. Maybe
Okay,
because
but
it's super applicable, but I get the gist of it is kind of there.
I leave it to you to make me feel like no. So take it then. Take it from there, James.
No,
How
but I
how do
think
you
that
pull that
well, look,
in?
I think that the truth is that awkwardness, you should turn that into a powerful situation because you are recognizing that you're in a new
Yeah,
scenario, new situation, and you are in familiar ground. And so the way you become more familiar in a situation like this, if you're driving, what do? You practice. But in this case, if you're getting promoted, you should
yeah,
have a strategy. And what we're going to offer today is three things that you can do to give you confidence and to allow you to look beyond that kind of self insecurity and be excellent at that promotion. And so when you are walking in and people are looking at you, you're feeling like darn right you should be looking at me because this
yeah.
is what I have going on. And so it's a different, it's just a pivot, but I think it's it's an opportunity.
Yeah, and I want to highlight you should feel a little uncomfortable. If you don't
Sure.
feel uncomfortable, then it's not a
Hmm.
stretch for you. So it's not the best
Right.
next step for
Right.
you. And so that's an important attribute of those first days.
No, I think that's exactly right, and I think part of the way that you can feel better about that, and I think this is my really first
Number one.
number one there is set the expectations. Clarify those expectations
Yeah.
on maybe day one. So many times a promotion is in the works forever, and it is a casual conversation between a few people, and you finally work that, and then this gets signed, and then this happens, and then he retires, and it all happens, and then you are promoted, but
Yeah.
the expectations may have been set months ago. Uh, People's visions have changed, and it's so important for you to go back and say, "Look, this is what this role is."
Yeah, I think that's really good. I think I would add to that as well as when you're setting expectations, it's okay to frame it to like if you now your peers are reporting to you or
Right,
it's people that have known you for a long time, say, listen, in this new role, I'm showing up differently. And
right,
so I'm
right.
resetting expectations. And so these are my expectations for you. And, also articulating to your peer group or anyone around you how you're going to do this differently because then that makes you
Hmm.
accountable to do it.
I totally agree, and I think one of the things that we should have mentioned at the top is this is about a promotion, right? This is you
Fair.
moving up, perhaps.
Yep.
Maybe you are keeping your current responsibilities and growing into additional ones. And so maybe some of your direct reports are staying as your direct reports. Or to your point, some of your peers are now your direct reports. And
Yeah.
so I think it's so important that you set that expectation. But equally, the second one is I really think you need to quit doing your old job. Now, what do I mean by
Oh,
that?
that's hard.
So it's super hard in the sense that in many cases you are still responsible for that work,
Yeah.
right? So you got promoted and now you just have additional responsibility. But by old job, I mean let's take this opportunity to your point to be different, show up different, quit being the old version of you and now be the
Yeah.
new version of you. And I think this is a great opportunity for you to do that.
Yeah. And I think too, even if it means something that you can feel,
Hmm.
like
Hmm.
dressing just a little different or doing
Exactly
something
right.
just a little different so that you do feel, even if you
Hmm.
keep the same office, how do you reorganize
Oh,
something
yeah,
on
that's
your
so
desk,
good.
right? So that you can see, so there's evidence to
Hmm.
you that keeps it really top of mind so that you really move through it and
Yeah,
stay up.
it's so important, and I think you're helping the people around you understand that things are different in a
Yeah.
very non-confrontational way, right? The worst thing you want to do is go and say, "Hey, I'm the boss now. We're not doing lunch anymore." Right?
Yeah.
That's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about just setting boundaries, explaining and being honest and straightforward about how these things are. This is a real, good fences make good neighbors, my
Yeah.
favorite phrase. And by drawing that line and making it really clear, crisply and cleanly, in the end, everybody will be happier.
I think that's great, and I hope I don't stomp on your 3rd, but I think the other thing is don't get in your about that.
Mm.
Don't start self-doubt about, "Well, what are they gonna think if I show up
Oh,
differently?
sure.
What are they gonna think if I do this differently?
Hmm.
If I'm saying I'm in charge now." You wouldn't say it like that, but
Right.
don't worry about what people are saying. Get that out of your mind as much as you can, deal with that, and just don't allow that to cloud your
Sure.
confidence.
And you're absolutely right. I mean, I think it's like episode 27. It's lonely at the top, and this goes to some of that. Don't hold me, quicksters, to that number. I just made that up. And but there is, we talk about how it's lonely at the top and how you do create that. You do kind of create that separation, and I think you're exactly right though. And while you can do it in lots of ways, I think the good leaders and the good managers acknowledge, hey, Susie, I know we were peers and you worked for me before. This is uncomfortable. I want
Yeah,
this to be cool. I want us to still have a great relationship, but I am going to have a different set of expectations. And if we can work together, this will be great.
yeah,
Right. And that kind of just honesty and transparency in this particular situation will pay huge dividends.
totally, and they can blame us. They can say, "I was told, I was advised, my
That by
executive
smart people.
coaches, by smart people."
But I think, and the third thing, what I want to really highlight, because I think this is so important, is put together a plan.
Yeah,
There's many books that talk about a 30, 60, 90-day plan. And I am a big believer in this plan. I know a bunch of the people listening today have heard me provide that as good advice. I know my son and I talked about putting, after he graduated, to put together a plan. But if you sit down and say, look, I'm going to have a 30-day plan, a 60-day plan, and a 90-day plan about what you're going to accomplish in that time
yeah,
frame, I also encourage you to take that plan to your boss and say, "Here's what I'm
love it.
where I'm heading."
Yeah,
Because of that, again, what to do? It sets your clear expectations, right? It helps you quit doing your old job, and it codifies it in a way that you can be successful. Now, we
yes,
all know that 60 days and that 90 days are probably garbage by the time you get to them. But boy, putting the framework together and having a
yeah.
plan is so important and so valuable in this type of
I love
situation.
it. I love it, and you know how you'll know it was really effective is that when you see somebody around you get promoted, they do the same thing in the next 6
Absolutely,
'cause they'll be
absolutely,
like, "That was cool." We think
that
they're like,
worked.
"Oh, look at them. They're just trying to
Yep.
make it look like, whatever," but that
Hmm.
that clarity and that purpose, you're showing that you're proud and you're worthy
Right.
of that, and you need to step up.
Well, and I love the idea of I think you said there, take that plan to your new team and say, here is my
Mhm.
30, 60, 90-day plan. This is what I am planning on doing in this
Yeah,
new role. We together are going to execute this. And that kind of, that creates a good cohesion for the team, sets direction. There's nothing that I can. Well, obviously, if your plan's horrible and mean, it's not going to be well received. But I don't recommend that. But good, there's nothing that can come bad out of having a plan, an effective plan, and a plan that you can share with your team. I think there's just so much value there.
Yeah, and get your buy-in from your boss first to
Mm,
make sure it isn't horrible
yeah,
and bad
and mean.
and mean.
That's
And
right.
then that way that gives you that confidence to go to
Right.
the
Right.
team and say, this is
This is
how it
what we're
looks.
doing. This is what
This
we're
is
doing.
yeah,
Yeah.
I love it. Okay, give us the 3. Bring it back home.
Right. So most importantly, clarify those expectations up front. Kind of like many things in life, it takes a lot of planning and getting to the end state. People forget and lose focus. So clarify those expectations in one way or another with your boss. Secondarily, make sure that you quit doing your old job. This is the time for you to quit being your old self, quit doing the old things. I got promoted in one job and I just started going through a different door every day. That made a huge difference in the
Oh,
way
I
that I
love
thought
it.
about work. So
Yeah.
quit doing your old job. And third one, put together a plan. Have a 30, 60, 90-day plan that'll help you craft your role and put some focus and direction as to what you're going to accomplish.
Yeah, well done. Well done. I love it. So good for
Perfect.
our quick stirs.
Yes, so good, so good. Thanks to all our Quicksters out there who've been pinging us. Our my inbox is quite full. My LinkedIn is on fire, which is great. I do appreciate that.
Awesome. And so if you want to connect with us, be one of them
Hmm.
and reach out to us. Let us know what's on your mind, comment, tell us a question you want us to talk about. We love, love, love to hear from you. And if you listen to this and you know somebody that just got promoted, share it with them. Let
Absolutely.
them do it. And then if this is you, because now we're talking to that person that they shared it with, if that was you that somebody shared it with you because you were just promoted, share with us what you
That's right.
used.
Pass it forward.
There's a lot of homework here. I'm just saying, there's a lot of homework.
It's complicated. There's a diagram in the notes in case you got lost on that.
Darren, get right on that. Well, we appreciate you. Thank you so much for being here. Until next time, quick stirs, we appreciate you.